Hello, then. Welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor Dupre. We meet here every Wednesday. And please do take note that as of June, we moved to the 12 o'clock hour. Right now, it's 10 a.m. I know you're asking what time zone. There's only one relevant time zone. It's Second Life time. So we're moving to the 12 o'clock hour in June. We're streaming to Facebook. We're streaming to YouTube and Twitter. I don't know if we're streaming to Instagram, actually. I have to ask my producer. Welcome to the in-world audience. Welcome to everybody on these 2D platforms. A couple house cleaning notes up top. The book club island is, of course, always open because this is a persistent virtual world. And oops, I hear a lot of clicking in my ear. What's that clicking noise? Book Club Island is always open. So if you find a well-meaning noob stumbling about and you are a seasoned Second Lifer, please help them out. This location is open to everyone. Sometimes I even have build on, so you can stop by anytime, build, and I'll clean it up later. Also, in late June, we are adding an informal Friday 11 o'clock gathering. So Friday, 11 a.m., the last Friday in June, please watch the group for announcements. We'll add an open mic where authors, poets, anybody can come and read experts of their work in progress, other people's work, get feedback, debate, technique, or whatever you want. So this thing is really exploding, and a lot of people have actually asked me to do the show twice a week, which I would love to do, but I can't read that many books. I would love to, but I'm also opposed to these, to those summary things or like the 15-minute, whatever that thing is, Blinkist. They're advertising they have books that you can read in 50 minutes, but I completely digress. I put out a reading list on bookshop.org every week. Bookshop.org is not sponsoring us yet, but I do like their business model. They're sort of the anti-Amazon. They support local stores, local events. The link is, and AJ put it in the local chat, bookshop.org/shop/Draxtor Reads. And I think we do have a full house. So this is amazing. Want to thank the team. Strawberry Linden is in charge of camera streaming. Brett Linden helps out with security, marketing. Patch Linden, the whole governance team, including all the moles. Marianne McCann customized the venue. She's building props and interactive stuff. And Kralos customizes the avatars of our wonderful guests. And we do have a super special guest today. She's comfortably lying there on the sofa. She's some sort of hybrid person, and you may have guessed her name. Her name is Kelly Robson. Well, I gave it away through the billboard behind me. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. This couch is super comfy.
How does it feel in this avatar?
It feels good. I love it. It is, it's always been my dream to have octopus legs. And so, here I am. I've got them and they're beautiful. Check this out. Ooh, look at that. Are they beautiful?
This is absolutely amazing. This is amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
And this has some significant. I mean, this has to do with your book, Gods, Monsters, and the Lucky Peach. We're going to talk about it. And when you first came in, and you wanted to do this, and you said, can we do this? And I said, well, I don't know, but I think we did it. And is this something that you feel is you? Because some authors actually refer to their avatars as she or he, so that in the third person. I mean, is this you, or
no,
would you say
me? Yeah, no, it's totally me. I mean, I have a fewer snakes in my hair in real life, but generally, this is me. Yeah, no, I feel like myself. I don't really get the online persona thing. I'm always me everywhere I go. I can't not be me. So, yeah.
But I also meant that
natural.
But also meant that the embodiment somehow feels for some sort of I don't know, like maybe a suit that they have to wear for a certain event. It's just interesting, but I can talk about this for hours, but this is not about me. This is about you. So who are you? You are according to the internet, you are a speculative fiction author, and you're currently residing in Toronto.
Yes, in Toronto, Canada.
in Toronto, Canada, the good part of it, the good America.
No, we're all good. We're all good.
We're all
It's
good.
just some of us have gone a little wrong.
You have won multiple awards. You won the Nebula Award for the Human Stain. I want to talk about the Human Stain too. You're finalist for all these awards.
Mm.
It's insane. Like Nebula, World Fantasy, Theodore Sturgeon, Locust Summers, and so on and so forth. Now, I wanted to ask you, in Canada, there's a lot of sci-fi writers, and I think they're all sort of huddling around each other in Toronto. As a matter of fact, you're also married to a sci-fi writer. Her
I
name
am. I am. We're a
her name is.
true writer family.
Can you live with another writer?
Yeah,
Are you not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
kill each other over like minutia and pedantry and critique?
Well, as long as we go around armed all day long and we watch our backs, we're okay with each other.
This is really something that totally fascinates me because I mean, I've been married for a long time and I get along very well with my wife, but we do get into uh we have issues when it comes to critiquing each other's writing, which it's a control thing possibly where I mean I readily admit that I like to impose my style on her and she feels that I do that, which I just admitted that I
Mm.
sometimes do.
Hmm.
But
Hmm. Well, that's the thing, right? Is we hope that the other person's motives are pure and that they just want to, do their best to make our writing good. So yeah, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. My wife is Alex Delamonica, A.M. Delamonica, also writes under the name LX Beckett.
mhm.
And yeah, there are a lot of science fiction writers here in Toronto. Toronto is a great place to be a writer. And actually, it all happened for me when I moved to Toronto in 2013. I've been struggling to get my writing legs under me, all 8 of my writing legs under me for quite a few years, and moved to Toronto. It kind of, it's a magic place, which is kind of not okay to say because if you're a Canadian, you're supposed to hate Toronto. So
Oh, is that right? So this was really
it
opening the doors for you. I mean, I know
really did.
there's a guy Peter Watts. I mean, I've not read him, but he looks I think he's quite prolific. And Carl Schrader, who was great. Corey Doctorow, I think, is from Toronto. I mean, he doesn't live there anymore. But
Mhm.
let's keep let's keep talking about you. Let's not talk about these other
These
insignificant.
other writers?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on the table here is your book. There's a bunch of books here on the table, but one of them is Gods and Monsters and the Lucky Peach, which came out in 2018, and this is really absolutely awesome. It involves time travel, and this is one of those books that I had to read with Wikipedia open because there is a oops, careful with those legs, you're hitting me in the face. um, this I had to read with Wikipedia open because it there's actual history woven into it. Shulgi, who was a king in
Mhm.
2000 BC during the Sumerian Renaissance, the protagonists live in the 23rd century. It's a
Yes.
post-apocalyptic or it's a post-ecological disaster Earth. People live
Mhm.
underground. Some people venture up. They want to revive old cities above ground. Um, a lot of people have physical disabilities. Some people are referred to as plague babies. Uh,
Mhm.
and what I found really fascinating with this book is that the world building is um, it is precise, but it also leaves a lot open to imagination. So, for example, you throw stuff out that to me it totally makes sense, but it's sparse. It's not completely defined. So, and I love this stuff where you can define it yourself. For example, you talk about some of these people, the main protagonist who actually has. Why don't you describe the main protagonist? How does she look? She looks
Yes.
like you a
So
little bit, maybe older.
her name is Min. She's 83 years old. So What I love about writing old characters is they get to really just you know, uh, not put up with anybody else's BS. So that's a lot of fun. So Min is 83. She's a plague baby. So she was in the middle of some, really terrible pandemic when she was a child, and she lost her legs.
Hmm.
And so she's been using prosthetics all of her life. And at the age of 83, as a very senior scientist in future Calgary in 2067, she has octopus leg prosthetics. So yeah, she's a lot of fun, and I love being able to write. Like, put one of the great things about being a writer is you get to put these grace notes in that just really make yourself happy, and the octopus legs make me happy. So yeah, Min's a lot of fun. She it's she gets to tell off a lot of people, and which I really enjoy.
We have a little bit of a voice breaking up. I mean, Strawberry, who is producing this, it's your call. Maybe we want to restart it, but it's fine for now. I mean, I heard it. It's not completely breaking up, so we're good. Um, so Min is interested in restoration, ecological restoration, and then she gets an offer to go back in time for this company. And this is a little tidbit. I mean, I look at everything through this sort of neoliberal lens. Not that not as a neoliberal defender of that system, but I read a lot of historical books lately. So when I look at
Uh-huh.
your world, I can't help sort of decode it like that, because bankers play a huge role, and Min is pitching basically j- uh, job proposals to various entities, and she has to jump through these. I mean, it's like a continuous grant proposal type thing, and everybody is talking about billable hours. So I mean,
Hmm.
it's just so cool, but I still don't know, and I don't fault you for it, because that's what I'm saying. The world building leaves so much open to the imagination and interpretation that I don't know exactly what these billable hours mean. That these folks with these various disabilities that are
Mhm.
fending for themselves, trying to rebuild the world above ground, while a lot of presumably rich people who are pulling the strings or still live below ground. What's up with the billable
Well,
hours?
yeah. Well, I gotta tell you, because it's the whole world building is set on the idea that the only thing that is truly of value, because this is a post scarcity society where
Hmm.
you can literally print things at a molecular level. The only thing that is worth anything is people's time, and
Hmm.
we already believe that, because companies like Google, for example, or like Second Life, uh, derive their value from the amount of time that people actually use it, and play in it and participate in it. So we
Hmm.
already know that people's time is valuable. So I built this idea of this whole society built around the idea of the billable hour, and it ends up being socialism on the inside. City states compete with other city states in a capitalist system to provide the best quality or the most attractive quality of life to the most people. So
Hmm.
socialism on the inside, capitalism on the outside. And I think it would actually work. I mean, we'd have to get to the point where we can print things molecularly, but I really like it. I like the idea that everyone is worthwhile,
Hmm. Hmm.
that everyone has value.
And the bankers are also being ridiculed. I just want to throw that in. Not ridicule, but I mean, they it's wonderful how you describe the bankers. And what is also interesting, but see, now I understand. So you're talking about the attention economy, basically, which is interesting. Linden Lab, makers of Second Life, they have a relatively new employee who I am very fond of, a young guy who comes from a um, different company, but within the tech industry, and he seems to understand Second Life fully. And I asked him what he thinks is the biggest competitor to Second Life, and he said the attention economy. So, but in your context, this also has to do with what what jobs are being funded and how and for what purpose. So, for example, the time
Mhm.
travel aspect of it, which would be so cool because the technology is there. You could go back in time. You could actually investigate what happened, and then
Mhm.
learn from cultures and learn from maybe some disasters and then sort of mitigate them in the future. But what do people do? Surprise, newsflash. Sorry, I'm spoiling it. They're using it for entertainment and for little
Using it for tourism.
tourism.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go
Well,
to the
and
Sumerian Renaissance and look at these primitive people.
yeah, well, we certainly wouldn't use that word, but, people are fascinated by people, and
Hmm.
I really want to time travel. I wanna see how people really lived, and I wanna see the minutia of their life. So I think it would be super fantastic to be able to time travel, but there's gotta be huge ethical problems with it too, right?
Hmm.
Because, when my people time travel, they, in God's Monsters and Lucky Peach, they can actually drop themselves down onto an uninhabited island hundreds of miles from any other island in the South Pacific, an
Hmm.
island that absolutely has no people, and they can actually literally sit there for the whole 3 weeks that they are doing their time travel, and they can, because they can launch satellites and because they have, power that they brought along with them, they can actually, they can see pretty much anything that they want to see. They can do it all remotely. But
Hmm.
nobody time travels to sit on a sunny beach for 3 weeks looking at TV, basically, looking at, you know, strapped in on VR and droning around. So, they wanna be boots on the ground. But the instant that you enter somebody else's world, you are meddling with them, and
Hmm.
that's not okay. So there's some interesting ethical questions there. And, because the time travel that I have, that I've, used for this book is very, very low tech time travel or very low complexity time travel there.
Yes,
You
and
can
I
go
like.
somewhere.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Mm. You can go somewhere, you can do whatever you want, and you can leave, and the next time you go there, it's a fresh you can drop back basically that timeline collapses. So anything that you did is gone, reset, everything's a reset, or at least that's what the physicists tell them
I was just gonna
tell the
say
time
because and
traveler.
thank you for giving away your book. But as we always say here at the book club, it's the journey that matters. So pick up this book, even if you think we're spoiling all the juicy parts. It's really the journey of reading it and imagining this world. I know people go like, "Oh, Draxter is going on his little soapbox now, talking about how it's important to train that muscle of being able to." Imagine a world that comes from the page, but also your the time travel that you employ in the book. I was just going to say, well, you said it that one of the main characters kind of claims that there is really no harm with them traveling back in time because
Mhm,
even if they had interactions, it would not alter the future because this particular
mhm.
uh, branch or whatever is going to will collapse, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So my, characters who they're scientists, they're ecological scientists, and they're going back in time to the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to basically do a past state assessment to see how the ecology worked back then so that they can try and use that to inform future restoration projects. So, they are traveling with a professional time traveler who has
Mhm.
been, a lot of places and has seen a lot of shit. So, um, he tells them, uh, he tells them, and everybody knows that time travel has no consequences. But it's
Mhm.
only when they get there, when they actually get there, do they realize that what they do, the other people who are in that world are real as well,
Mhm.
and that just because you say nothing you do has consequences doesn't mean that you can actually do whatever you want, even though the professional time traveler, being a rather jaded person, says
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting ethical question. Another question that I that I ask is, what would you do to time travel? Most of us would really like to do it. Very few of us would say, no, I don't want to. If I could tell you, you could time travel, you would be safe, you would be healthy, and you would get home, what would you give to do that? And one of the characters in my book, Kiki, who is 23 years old, who's a research assistant, she, I don't want to give this one away because it's a big eyeball poke,
Yeah.
but, she really wants to go. So she makes a really serious decision and gets herself on that team.
This is interesting. This happened before with other guests where I feel that the story, not that the story is pessimistic or gloomy, but when I read this book, and it happened with Cory Doctorow too, with Radicalized, where I really felt well, with Cory a little bit more than with you, I felt like, wow, this is really gloomy, and I was worried that you guys are depressed. But you sound quite cheerful. I mean, I find the world
Oh
that you're
yeah,
just.
no. Did you really think it was gloomy?
Well, first of all, I want to say, and people know this, that actually I love gloomy stuff, not because I want to be proven right about my gloomy outlook of people in general. No, but I love stuff that is challenging and difficult in terms of human relations. No, I just
I
felt.
tried to put in so many jokes, Draxor. Didn't you laugh?
No, it's absolutely awesome. Don't get me. No, no,
No, I didn't laugh.
no. I cried all the
No.
way through. No, what I'm saying, but in some ways, maybe I focus on the negative stuff that these wonderful characters. It seems to me that still the bankers and the big
Hmm.
corporations have the upper hand, and I just want to have them collapse. So if I could, please commission a
Isn't
story with you, Kelly, where that might happen.
yeah, no problem. Um, well, here it is. Here's the wonderful thing is that here's a world where there are no wars. Nobody starves. Everyone has as much education as they want to pursue. They spend all their lives playing video games if they want, and they can still have a wonderful, decent lifestyle. They can still be safe. Nobody has to be sick. So, to me, that's a pretty fantastic. I mean, to me, that's a utopia. If
Hmm.
I could live in a world where I knew that nobody was ever gonna, or that, 99.99% of people were going to live their lives and never suffer horribly. Wow, fantastic.
But the billable hours and people being chained to the workplace. No, we got Kelly. I totally understand you. And see, this is to me I think the greatest compliment that I can give somebody as or I can give to a writer is that we look at this book that you wrote in different ways. We look at it through these different lenses, and we see different things, and that is awesome. So God's Monsters and the Lucky Peach is absolutely fantastic. You read it in no time, and I want to move on to, because you are also really a prolific short story writer, and these are in different genres, which is totally fascinating to me. Let me just remind folks, if you're just tuning in, I come from the broadcast era. If you're just turning your dial to this station, I'm talking to Kelly Robson, kellyrobson.com. This is the Second Life Book Club, and we're talking about her body of work. And she's here on the sofa in her embodiment with several legs, and also little snakes on her head that seem to be hair, I guess. By the way, Rebel
Yeah.
here in the Roy Ashman here in the chat says, I don't think so. It's known as the butterfly effect. Is when an unnoticeable detail has enormous consequences. Yes, that is the butterfly
Mm.
effect. Rebel says, I'd want to travel to see concerts and different events, but I'd be terrified to interfere with my own life. Okay, maybe a little
Yeah.
tiny amount, like maybe get myself to buy the Kia instead of the Ford.
Well, that's just exactly it. Is I don't like in time travel stories. For me, I'm not all that interested in the idea of meddling with a timeline or doing sleight of hand to make your plot. I like a straightforward plot.
Mhm.
So the way this basically this isn't a time travel story. It's a story about people who time travel.
Yeah. That's actually good that you're pointing this out. It's really the time travel is maybe not even at the core of things. I mean, there's so many themes that are very very deep that you can explore. Hey, by the way, I see a virus here in the
Oh
audience. I
no,
don't know. Can the camera focus on there's a we have a virus in the house.
terrible virus.
And we're not wearing masks. Uh let's see here. Um Stella, by the way, here in the chat says the idea of Sumerian touristic voyeur and time travel is unique. Yes, I did social distance. Now, the virus here, can I maybe ask the virus to come here on stage and sit on the couch because I do want to ask the virus a few questions and bring him into the conversation. But for,
Explain yourself, virus.
but first, let's talk a little bit about your short stories because they also span various different genres. And you won. Um, did you win the Nebula Award for The Human Stain? Right?
Yeah, A Human Stain. I won the Nebula Award in 2018. It was amazing. I was utterly stunned to win it. It's a lesbian uh, gothic horror story set in Austria, in the mountains, deep mountains, remote mountains of Austria, in about 1909.
Hmm.
And it's pretty, people tell me that they're really grossed out and scared by it, so I
Yes,
think it's pretty effective.
it is absolutely remarkable. It's here on the table. If we can, now that the virus has situated him or herself on the couch, maybe the camera can zoom into the human stain. It's here on the table. This is a. I was totally freaked out by this, and I don't know how you did it. I mean, I would love to talk to you for hours about technique and stuff, but we
Mm.
maybe we should do a special show about where writers maybe share their techniques. I don't know how you did it. It's
Well, I
really it.
gotta tell you,
Yeah.
lots of rewrites. A lot of
Ah,
rewrites. Ellen Datlow was the editor for this one. She's a very famous short
I know
fiction
Ellen
editor.
Datlow. She is on the
Yeah.
short list of coming here.
Oh,
Ah,
good, good, good,
yeah.
good, good. You should definitely got to get her here. Um, yeah, she put me through 5 major rewrites of it before she would buy it. So yeah, a lot of rewriting. I had to
Wha-
change. Yeah, no, I could definitely. I would love to. Occasionally, I get to talk to people about revising stories and about how you know when a story isn't working, and what you do to try and fix a story. So
mhm.
yeah, I'd love to talk about some.
The
This was
the
definitely a story that went from nowhere to winning a Nebula Award through rewrite.
it is really really scary. I mean, I was literally. I mean, I have consumed every horror movie there is on the map when I was a teenager. And I have my Stephen King phase, but this is really another level, and I also don't know what's going on in it actually. So this is actually I see this as another a big compliment. Don't get me wrong. And also, the Human Stain is only available on digital, and I don't like to read on digital. I don't like to read on Kindle. I like a physical book. I would have bought this. I mean, I did buy it on digital, and I enjoyed it on
Mm.
digital. Is that an issue for you, by the way, that some things are only offered this way? I was wondering if they why don't they offer this as a print on demand book, for example? Is
Yeah,
that
I
not
don't
an
know.
option?
It's part of the business model for the publisher, I guess. I don't think it's a problem. I'm going to, I'll have a collection of my short stories out next year.
Hmm.
So if you're interested, you can definitely hold it in your hands next year. It's going to be beautiful. It's coming up from Subterranean Press. do beautiful signed hardcovers. It's going to be gorgeous. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. No, I'll buy this right away. Okay, so we have the virus here. The virus has infected. It shows the total infected. Does that show on the camera? I gotta check. Um, we have a virus here on the couch. His name is Squidnapper. And let's just reveal who this virus is. This virus is um, actually in real life Peter Watts, who is a fellow Toronto. I don't know if he's a Toronto native, but he's certainly a dweller in Toronto. And Peter Watts is a fellow science fiction author, author of many books and stories. I think, according to Wikipedia, he is a member or he's a purveyor of hard sci-fi, whatever that means.
The hardest of hard sci-fi.
He's the hardest of hard sci-fi, and he's also trained as a marine biologist. I, as a former resident of the Monterey Bay area in California, I know those types. So, Peter, welcome to the couch. I had to bring you in because I ran out of questions for Kelly. How are you doing, Peter?
I don't know. I'm feeling a little under the weather, as you might tell. I don't know if maybe it's too soon to adopt the persona of a coronavirus.
Too soon. Jokes, you mean? Yeah.
Keeping with Kelly's cephalopod motif, I suppose I can always.
There we go.
Yeah, changed. When in Rome, right?
There we go. Lovely. Well done.
When in SL. There you go. You adopted to the SL culture quite quickly.
I may have fewer limbs than Kelly, but they glow. They are bioluminescent. So
you are a beautiful, beautiful acid green. That is gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
Peter, you are a fellow sci-fi writer. I'm putting your website here, rifters.com, into the local chat in Second Life, and also the reading list for today contains it contains Blindside. I have to put a few more books of yours into the reading list. Here's the reading list from bookshop.org. How do you feel about when you hear Kelly talk? Because you're also blurbed her book. Where is the book? I don't have it in front of me. It says something like
she has blurbed
I can
mine
read
as well.
The far future, says Peter Watts, the far future, the distant past, time travel, bioengineering, office politics, and ecological consulting. How could I not love this? Peter Watts.
Peter, do you feel that a world where we can play as many video games as we like is the world that we should strive for?
Well,
I'm reducing Kelly's argument, not argument, but position here to create controversy. I learned that over the weekend in a crash course on how to moderate a panel.
I'm in mixed. Am I actually? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good enough. I'm not getting a little free acoustic icon over my head. It's probably actually inside the mantle. Yeah. You've caught me at a bad time because I'm in the middle of this VR game called Half-Life Alyx.
Oh, I hear that's really scary.
Oh, I'm currently encountering this antagonist called Jeff, which anybody who has played Half-Life Alyx will, of course, want to embrace me with sympathy because, wow, I hate you, Jeff. But I can certainly, on the one hand, the more time we spend playing video games, the less time we're spending flying across the planet and boosting carbon emissions to the point where we cook ourselves. Mm-hmm. So anything that basically gets us off the street, I think is a good idea. On the other hand, some recent studies have come out suggesting that the waste heat generated just by cryptocurrency mining is enough to add 2 degrees to the global temperature budget by 2030. So I don't know if there is a win-win situation. I don't think that playing video games is necessarily the best thing for us as physical beings, but in terms of not screwing up the environment as much as we have been, I'm all in favor of it.
I just, Peter, I just bought, I guess a week ago, Alex and I both got Oculuses.
Sorry, got what?
Oculi.
Oh, right.
Oculus Quest. And
So
I've got to tell you, yeah, Oculus Quest. And, after 10 weeks of lockdown, suddenly our tiny little apartment is so much bigger.
See, this is quite interesting. I'm starting a book club, and then I invite writers. And am I the only one in lockdown who is reading more and playing less? Spending actually less time in digital worlds. I mean, I spend a lot of time in Second Life because I also work here. But are you guys getting any writing done with all this strapping the Oculus on your heads and running around in Half-Life with Jeff or Greg?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting some writing done. It's hard. It's been hard just because of this huge change to our world. But yeah, I'm writing.
Peter? So much. I mean, I get to write off the whole VR thing because I'm actually working on a VR game with a startup out of Tel Aviv. So I get to claim that it's work, and I am doing writing, but not of my own prose so much. I'm kind of torn now that I know that Kelly and Lexus have an Oculus Rift. I'm torn between either mocking her for buying into Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook machine, or warning her in the spirit of sort of good fellowship to watch out for chaperone zones, because the first thing I did when I started playing VR was I ended up smashing my wife's cover art picture that was hanging on the wall. Your apartment still isn't any bigger.
No, it's not. It's not.
And my fists for the first couple of weeks developed calluses because I ended up just walloping walls and stuff or bashing the corners.
Your arms are a lot longer than mine. I actually got to play in VR first time last summer at Peter's house, and it was amazing. So I was pretty darn happy to be able to do VR in my tiny little living room. And yeah, no, it's okay. We're all right. We're going to be all right. One of the things that it is offering me is the ability to feed my Google Street View addiction in VR. So instead of clicking around on my laptop, visiting places in Google Street View, which I love to do, now I can do it in full surround. Fantastic.
Let me bring in some of the chat. This is fascinating. I'm gonna go back a little bit to reading and books. I have nothing against VR, as people know. I dabbled it in myself, and now I'm back from vacation, back into Second Life, which I do believe is actually VR before marketing departments hijacked the term and just sort of glued it to the Oculus. VR is more than just an input-output device in my mind, but I'm digressing. In the chat, we have people commenting. Elfbiter is saying, depends on what kind of games one is playing. Elfbiter is expected to write more during the quarantine. Ghostspeed says, my writing has gotten darker in quarantine.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, and Halomonas is echoing this. My writing has gotten darker too when I can poop out any at all.
Oh yeah.
And
it
Dahlia,
is so hard. It is hard, but just try and keep up like a regular schedule.
I want to ask you what tricks you have, Kelly and Peter, to like scheduling writing tricks. Dahlia is saying, my writing has become darker because I cannot kill the neighbor who does noises.
Oh no.
Oh, no. You know that the backlash of people, you yes. Notice the backlash when people sing or play music and other people go, shut up.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, I'm just trying to bring the joy of music to my neighbors. Well, nobody asked you. Also, Hexapoda is saying here in the YouTube chat, books is just analog VR. I think that's great.
I would actually jump in here and say that I would go further. I think language is analog VR.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of scares me about VR. I suppose about any multimedia platform, is that is that Kelly and I have kind of we've hung our hats on what's essentially an evolutionary kludge. I want to describe a sunset or a river to you. What I do is I remember what rivers look like to me, and I break them down into a series of scratches of ink on paper or pixels on screens. And I basically send that to you guys, and you decipher that in your own turn. And if I'm lucky, you have a vision of a sunset or of a river that looks more or less like mine. So you cobble that together. But essentially what we're trying to do is convey three-dimensional wraparound sensory panoramas using smoke signals.
Yes and no. Wait, Peter, I need to jump in here. Yes and no, but this is what we're talking about. I mean, what I enjoy as a reader is that I have the freedom to interpret this stuff differently and have a completely different view of the same sunset. See, again, I'm here to me, Second Life is home. It's absolutely wonderful what people present visually and spatially, and I can immerse myself in their expression as I can with VR. But on the other hand, I'm then stuck with what they present to me visually. So that's one of the reasons why I, for example, never watch a film based on a book that I enjoy, because even if the film is made by the best director, the best crew, and the biggest budget in the world, and if it's if the aesthetics are super awesome and everything is wonderful, it still it reduces the world that I have created in my own head.
I'm going to say that actually reading is like being possessed. Good reading. If I can make you scared, Drax, if I can make you shit your pants when you read my lesbian gothic horror story, I'm possessed you. I'm in your brain.
It was the lesbians that scared me the most, but go ahead.
Me too.
And I can make you look at things that you wouldn't, and make you notice things that you would never notice. So, like Peter just said, we can describe a river, but if I want you to notice that there are little brown dead bugs floating past you on the river, I can totally do that. I can make you notice. So it's not just like a consensus reality river. It's a very specific detail in the river. And this is when writing is super powerful, is when these details are very specific and that they mean something, that they convey a little bit more information than is actually the words on the page.
So here's the question then. Is writing, when you tell a story, Kelly, when I tell a story, do you consider that a cooperative venture, a collaboration between writer and reader? Or do you consider it your job to convey information to the reader as clearly as possible?
Clearly as possible. And
so you basically want to impose your vision on the recipient. It's a one-way transmission.
What I want is for, in an ideal circumstance, is for the reader to be able to sink into my writing really easily and not feel as though they're actually reading, but that they're immersed in my world. And then, they can feel however they like about my world. Like, Draxtor found Lucky Peach World super dark. I just wanted him to laugh. But I want it to be immersive.
But isn't it, I thank you. This is an absolutely fascinating discussion now, because, oh God, and we're approaching already the last quarter of the hour. But I would say, aren't there many, many different ways to look at this? I hear what you're saying, Kelly, that's your preference, but I wish that Annabelle Banks, who's coming in a couple of weeks, she's a poet, and she wrote a book called Exercises in Control, which very, very abstract stuff, where it's super abstract, but it's hitting me also on a deep emotional level. And I can only explain this with a musical analogy. There is there are musical ways of expressing the same thing, and sometimes it involves a very precise fast arpeggio of 30-second note cascading over 5, 6 10 minutes on a violin, and sometimes there's just one note, and sometimes it's just a piece of noise, and they evoke different or maybe the same pictures in our heads.
Yeah, but is that a story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a world. I mean, it's a world. I know what you're saying. You are saying, is language a is music a story? Is it building a world? Well, that's a good question. That's a question.
If you want to take it right down to its reductionist essentials, what we're basically trying to do is generate neurochemical changes in the brain.
Yeah.
You want to get music. Music gives you shivers if it's good, or nausea if it's not.
Yep.
The same thing can be said for a great piece of prose. You just close your eyes, like Kelly says, you immerse yourself in it. But these are all essential hacks to produce, for want of a better word, I know this is extremely simplistic, a dopamine rush.
Yeah.
So at some point, somebody's going to figure out, and I mean, Elon Musk, for example, and his Neuralink thing I tend to think that he has not really thought through some of the consequences of Neuralink. But something in that field has the potential to say, screw music, screw art, screw prose. We can give you this ultrasonically mediated, electromagnetically induced pulse directly to your sensory cortex and give you the feel of having listened to a beautiful concerto without actually having to go to all the trouble of sitting there for more than 5 goddamn minutes.
Oh God, this is like Blink. This is like Blinkist for the brain. Blinkist is that company that offers all these nonfiction books in summer. You can listen to them on audio for 15 minutes, any book. Yeah, that's to me that's terrible. I was just, but that's I mean, Peter, I can see that very clearly, that this will be embraced by a very large portion of the population for sure.
I don't know if it is
embraced either. That's just a drug.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that the whole point of art, to generate? I mean, what you're talking about is a drug, but so is nociceptin, so is dopamine. Basically, is there a functional difference whether you inject the molecule from outside or whether your brain generates it internally? It's still the same molecule.
I think stories are something else. Like if you can combine a drug with a need, then maybe you get close to a story. Like, for example, you could take all the drugs you want. You could, fire your dopamine, whatever. But if I tell you, I went to Batman's funeral yesterday.
Oh, you did? I was there too. You didn't say hi to me. Oh, go ahead.
Right? Like Batman died. Like that evoked, because that character has had so many stories told about him, you're going to have a lot more complex reaction to that idea. I'm only just pulling this out of my butt.
No, I mean, you're saying, I mean, I know what you're saying. You're also saying, I mean, I would agree that stories are also more than just a hit of a drug, because they ideally make us understand deeply something about the human condition, about empathy, about how we relate to each other. I know Peter is going to say, well, that's what drugs do. A lot faster.
I'm not actually going to do that. And I think you make a really good point, in that you can convey digital information, you can convey insights, you can convey knowledge that are not drugs. But the way we were talking about the whole experience just a few minutes ago, and what sort of bootstrapped this in my own brain, was we were talking about the emotional impact of music and art, right?
Yes.
And that element, I think, can, at least in theory, be replicated by strapping a hairnet with room temperature superconductors onto your head and going wild. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying that if all you're after is the visceral rush, there are easier ways of doing it.
There is actually there is I just got a 10-minute warning from the producers, and on my run sheet I have so much more stuff, but that's fine because Kelly needs to come back, and Peter is actually coming back on July the 8th. So it's on the website is the full rundown. And I don't want to cut you guys off, but what Peter is talking about, there is a from Dolby Labs, they're working on. They have a lab where they look to the reaction, emotional reaction that can be generated by specific frequencies, inaudible frequencies that we know that they can generate a certain feeling, but they infuse them. They working closely with Hollywood producers to put these into the soundtrack to enhance a specific feeling in the movie theater. And undoubtedly with games as well. That's in some ways it's a legitimate manipulate. Every storyteller is manipulating their audience. But on the other hand, of course, I can see a lot of nefarious practices being done with this technology.
Sony has been very quietly renewing a patent ever since around 1999 or 2004. A technology, it's a blue sky technology. They don't have the tech to do it yet, but they've been patenting the concept, which uses compressed ultrasound to bypass the sensory organs entirely and plant sensory impressions directly onto the brain. And they're selling it as, hey, this great telepresence. Think of the implications for gaming. Think of the implications for medicine. Think of the great surgical things. And I'm thinking, a neuron is a neuron, whether it's firing in response to a sensory stimulus or whether it's firing in response to a political belief. And it seems to me that if they actually do build a technology like that, it's just basically a matter of turning the beam a little bit to the left. Before you stop giving people wonderful Second Life or World of Warcraft wraparound and start inducing an irresistible desire for a particular brand of beer, for example, or hell, even a political belief.
We just wrote the Philip K. Dick novel in less than 30 seconds here on the Second Life Book Club.
Well, that's Peter's that good. I believe Peter's
I know. I mean, he's just
3 times a day.
That's amazing, Peter. Now, I want to mention before we run out of time that I really enjoyed another story of yours, Kelly. It's called Waters of Versailles, which is a hybrid also of a historical novel. I mean, it plays in the 1780s. I looked this up. It's King Louis XV, I believe, is reigning, and this is about toilets. Okay. This is my pitch. I could be selling your books, Kelly, on the boardwalk. I'm telling you. But this is also only available in digital. But you can get it right now for $1.99, or I think not $1.99. $99. Waters of Versailles. It's about toilets and mermaids. Now, this is what Second Lifers love. Those are the two subjects I think that they would enjoy.
Sex, magic, and plumbing.
But seriously, this touched me deeply. I mean, because it's also, again, I mean, I read it through my lens. This is about class. This is about it's a metaphor for our classist society that we live in today.
It's for class, and it's about parenthood.
Exactly. It's
about the idea that if you are forced to care for a child, you come to love that child. It changes you, right?
And then when they become teenagers, then you start hating them again, right, Peter?
Is that
okay? Sorry, go ahead.
So what I really wanted to do is I wanted to take this sexy, man's man guy. He's a soldier. He's a courtier. He's a lover of women. Women want him, men want to be him, sort of deal. And I wanted to turn him into a good dad, like a good parent. And this is this was the challenge.
It's brilliant.
It turns out that he has to he has to take on the parenting of a water nixie, who's basically about a very powerful 6-year-old child.
Yeah. It's wonderful, and these the visuals that emerge in my head. So thank you for envisioning this. And again, it's a mix of different genres that you do so well. So we're running out of time. We're going to end the stream in just a few minutes, but we're going to stick around for the post game for 30 minutes for the in-world audience only. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and you couldn't get in earlier because the region was full, you can try now. Maybe somebody left, so give it a try. Log into SL, and we're going to use SL Voice to talk a little bit further. Kelly is at kellyrobson.com. We have the bookshop.org link for the reading list. I was going to ask Kelly about Serial Box, which I discovered through her, which is very interesting, serialbox.com. I'm going to put it into the local Second Life chat, which is a website where Kelly has several audiobooks while the text is floating on the screen. It's pretty cool. There's one story that is free there. It's the Monkey Work episode 1. And then there's others. I think you have to get a subscription. Next week we have who do we have next week? Oh yeah, Kelly Robson again as a special guest with Anne Vandermeer and Eric Dezetnik, makers of the anthology Avatars Inc. And we have Anne and Eric will be with me on stage, and in the audience we will have a whole bunch of people that have written for this particular anthology. I'm not going to name any names. I just gave away that Kelly's going to come back, but there's going to be a whole bunch of people, and we'll talk about anthologies and how they come together, how they are edited, what is the editor's role. Is the editor the mother of a 12-year-old telling you, clean your room? Or what's that relationship like? Kelly, are you reading, in closing, are you reading anything right now, or are you just running around with your Oculus or fighting with your wife over the Oculus?
I'm always, well, we've got 2, so we're okay. I'm always reading. I have been reading this amazing book called A Symphony in C. It's about, so I read a lot of nonfiction. And
okay.
It's about carbon. It is about the findings of a 10-year multidisciplinary international consortium who looked into carbon and basically carbon in the mantle of the earth. And so the deep carbon cycle. And it is absolutely freaking fascinating. I love it. Beautifully written. That sounds like the driest topic in the world, but it is fascinating. It had my jaw hanging open every 3 pages. It's amazing.
We have 1 minute left in the show. Please, Kelly, if you could put the link into the local chat, and I'll add it to the reading list. Peter, are you reading anything, or are you absorbed in playing games and designing games?
I can't seem to stop just sort of clicking on links about COVID.
See, this is
and all the
actually
things that we're ignoring.
Yep.
I mean, the 2020 is still on track to be the hottest year on the planet in the planet's history since history began. With even with the COVID-induced reductions in carbon generation. So I'm basically just reading actual nonfiction postings about molecular genetics and doomsday, and I can't seem to pull myself away from that. And I really wish I could, because everything I read is obsolete by the next day because the situation is changing so fast.
You need to do more mindful meditation. Let me end here for the streaming audience, and then we can continue the conversation. This was a wonderful discussion. Thank you, Kelly Robson. Thank you, Peter Watts. We see you guys next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then we'll switch to the 12 o'clock hour, 12 p.m. Please take a note, and the website will reflect this. The group will reflect it. Thank you to my team. See you all next Wednesday here at the Second Life Book Club.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.